Hello there. The last collection video I did was on the Super Nintendo, which is my favorite system of all time. My second favorite system of all time is the PlayStation, or PS1. So I'm going to share with you my PS1 collection. The PS1, in my personal opinion, had the best library of fighting games and RPGs, some of which are missing from my collection for now. And the PS1, I think, had some of the best video game soundtracks of all time, as well. And that was a great thing with the PS1, that a lot of the games were also like the soundtrack. You could take the game and put it in like your CD player and then just listen to the music from there. And, today you can just burn it right onto your iTunes. Not that it's probably the best thing for this game, but whatever. Anyway, let's look through the games. First is Loaded, because the reason I'm showing this one first out of alphabetical order is because it's a long box. The only long box game I have in my collection for the moment, but I'll probably get more in the future. This is definitely a classic. Definitely had a killer soundtrack, no pun intended. Another classic, now we're getting into alphabetical order. Agile Warrior, which was a flying game with a jet and also had a killer soundtrack. In fact, one of the songs, I think it's from the desert level, was actually used in an episode of SpongeBob, the Sleepy Time episode, I believe it's called, when he's going into different people's dreams, and the song plays in the part when he's in Sandy's dream and they're skydiving. There's also in a couple of episodes of Rocko's Modern Life. Probably the most notable is the one where Hepper's like roller skating or something like that. But now, I don't know if either show had permission to use the song or not, but it's just one of those things that's kind of funny. Ball Breakers. I got this ages ago. It was one of the first games I got for my PlayStation. I haven't played it in years, so I don't even remember what kind of game it was like. Battle Arena Toshinden 3, one of the great fighting game series for the PS1. There was also one for Game Boy, which seems a little weird. These were like pretty much like Soul Calibur, but more modern. Well, 90s modern, I should say. But these were awesome games. Really good music, especially the second one had probably the best music. This one was kind of cool because all the characters was like, if you beat it with one character, you unlock another character that was similar to them. I'm trying to think of an example. For example, one character, Alice, who's actually in all three of the games, she's like this girl with two knives, and when you beat it with her, you unlock this like voodoo guy with two blow dart guns, I think they're called. There was actually an anime movie based off the game series, which I have on VHS. There's two versions. This is the uncut version, because there's another one that's like basically censored. They called it like a kid's version or something. The movie itself is kind of mediocre, but it has its moments. Back to the games. Pig Strike Bowling. That was actually a game I played a lot. Blaster Master, Blasting Again. I played that. It's basically a remake of, or retelling of the original in a 3D perspective. Bloody Roar 2. Now this game, a quick side story, because I'm going to be mentioning this for a couple of these games. I remember my brother had this subscription that, back in the late 90s, where they would send you a different demo disc every month. There would be demos for PS1 games, for future PS1 games, some of which were playable, others were just like short videos. And there was a demo, one of the video demos for Bloody Roar, the first Bloody Roar, on one of them. I think we heard about it prior to that, and then there was another one that was playable, because it was a game that we had a lot of hype for. And then I actually got my PlayStation 1 as a Christmas gift, and I believe in 2002 I got like one of those mini ones. Years before that in the 90s, my brother and I always played his, but anyway, I was always harassing my brother, like, are you ever going to get Bloody Roar 2? And he's like, why didn't you just get it? And I was like, okay, so I did. Another game that had awesome music. It was like a fighting game where you turn into animals, or animal people. There might be pictures of it on there, but not really. But that's like another it's like gone but not forgotten, so to speak. Bushido Blade. This was an interesting fighting game because it was more like it was just like a one-hit thing, like, because it was more like a samurai type of game. Like, you just hit somebody once and they would go down. Like I said, it's supposed to be more of a samurai type of game. C12 Final Resistance. Another game I haven't played in ages, but I remember it being a really good game. I played the shit out of this. Crash Bash. It's pretty much like Crash Bandicoot mixed with Mario Party, and there was one game that I played so much of. I think it's sort of like that one on the back, but that might be something else. But it was one where you throw like explosive crates at each other and try and knock each other through the floor. That was so much fun. I also have Crash Team Racing, which is basically Crash Bandicoot mixed with Mario Kart. I remember there was a lot of secret characters in this, and it's awesome to see that Crash Bandicoot is coming back. And one thing about that is, ever since I started collecting World of Nintendo figures a couple of years ago, I started collecting third-party video game characters or action figures. And unfortunately, I remember there was Crash Bandicoot toys like back during these days, like the old PS1 days. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, the old Crash Bandicoot toys are very expensive. Like, to find one used is probably like, I don't know, like $50, maybe more. I mean, I'm talking out of the box, like, that's probably been played with like 100 times. Why it's so expensive, I don't know. But with this series coming back, hopefully they'll start redoing the toys again. That would be sweet to see. Then I have Digimon Rumble Arena, which was a pretty good fighting game. Fighting Force, a 3D beat-em-up, definitely very underrated. Final Fantasy Chronicles. This was when they were started re-releasing a lot of the Final Fantasy games, including ones that were never released outside of Japan, like 2, 3, and 5. But this one had Final Fantasy IV, which is definitely my favorite, as well as Chrono Trigger. And I also have Final Fantasy Tactics. Never got the damn sticker off of this, but it's Guardians Crusade. This was an interesting little RPG because the only real characters is this knight guy and this little pink monster that you have with you. But you also have these little... well, I should look into that game. Taifu, I remember that. Here we go. You have these little, like, toys that accompany you that you can have help you fight or do other things. I always thought that was kind of a cool little aspect of this game. Made it a very unique RPG. I can just get the instructions back in there, pardon me. Okay. Next we have Jet Moto, which was a racing game with hover bikes. Challenging, but a lot of fun. Awesome music. It was made by Single Track. They made great PS1 exclusives back in the day. Jumping Flash 2. This is a classic. The first one, unfortunately, is very expensive, but it's a 3D platformer with a first-person perspective. I'd love to see an HD re-release of this game. Another game I'd love to see an HD re-release of is Legend of Dragoon. I remember my brother got me for this. He got me this for Christmas in 2003, I believe, and the game is actually 4 discs, which I can kind of show you. There you go. This was such a great game. I played through it so quickly, I just couldn't put it down. And despite the fact of being 4 discs, and the funny thing was, one of the characters in it, Maru, I was in my sophomore year when I was playing this game, and I did the Egg Baby project, and I named my Egg Baby after one of the characters from the game. And I was telling a couple of my friends about it, that was where I got the name from, and they're like, "Oh my god, I remember that game!" Next we have Mega Man X5. I remember I rented that years ago, and then I bought it years later. 1. That's literally the name of the game. And it's a very good game, but it's very hard. RoboPit 2. This one is kind of... It's like a 3D fighting game, but mixed with a platformer almost. And the interesting thing about this is the first game, which my brother had the first one, and that's like... They're both very different, because I think each one was made by a different company. The first one... And you make your own robots, like characters. I need to get the first one at some point. I'm pretty sure you can still find it pretty cheap. The first one is, I think, more of a multiplayer game, and it has kind of like an arcade mode, and the robot customization mode is kind of simple. But with this one, I think it's meant to be more of a one-player game, despite the fact that it is for 2 players, but it has more of like a legitimate story mode, and the custom robot creation mode is much more detailed. Unfortunately, you can only make 1 character. Still, it's a good game, though. I've been meaning to play that again. Running Wild. It's a racing game with animals that run. This is another game that my brother and I had played on that demo subscription thing. Soul Divide. This was a very weird game. I think I only played it once, to be honest. I don't know. This takes me back. Spyro, Ripto's Rage, which was the second title. I miss Spyro. Not the... I mean, granted, he's technically in Skylanders, but it's not the same as the classic Spyro games. Suikoden, or Suikoden. The second one, which my brother has the second one, I played the shit out of that, and unfortunately it's overpriced now. I found the first one for, I think, like 20 bucks, and I was like, oh, what the hell, and I beat it in probably a couple of weeks. I just couldn't put it down. It's such a great series. I played, I think there's 5 of them. I played 4 out of 5, but I'd say the second one would have to be the best. That's probably why it's the most expensive. That game just really inspired me at like creative purposes and stuff. Another game, this takes me back. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. Played that a lot when I was in high school. Trap Gunner. This game was awesome. It's kind of hard to describe. It's like more of like an arena shooter type of game where you have, you run around and like set traps for each other and fight each other. It's kind of, like I said, it's kind of hard to describe, but it's an awesome game, or at least I think it is. We have Twisted Metal 2, my personal favorite in the series. So many great memories with this game, but I'll probably save that for another video or something. Twisted Metal 4, this one was okay. I like the take they did on it, how it's like Sweet Tooth has taken over and Calypso was a playable character. The thing is, this one is better than the third game, but not by a whole lot. The reason the third and fourth game were so, like, I don't want to say bad, but was the fact that the first 2 Twisted Metal games were made by Single Track, and they kind of branched off and did their own thing, which is why the third and fourth game were made by different developers, and that's why they're so wildly different. Unfortunately, Single Track eventually went out of business, but the main guy, I forget his name, he formed the company Incog Inc., and they reclaimed the rights to Twisted Metal, and they made Twisted Metal Black, which is why that one feels more like a reboot. After that, I kind of lost track. Another game that they made was Twisted Metal Small Brawl. This is Incog Inc. again. This is basically like a kiddie version of Twisted Metal, but it's actually really good. You know, it's you play as like remote control cars instead of like the actual cars, because it's like, you know, like I said, a kiddie version. But it's very creative what they did with the vehicles and weapons and levels and stuff. Like, for example, one of the rooftop level, because that's like a Twisted Metal tradition to have a rooftop level. The rooftop level is a tree house, and I'm trying to think of some of the weapons. Like the remote bomb is like a cherry bomb. You remember those? Well, why should I say remember it? Because they're technically still around. But the napalm is like a flaming Barbie doll head. That was pretty funny. This is another game my brother and I heard from that subscription service that we were so hyped for, and then when he bought it, we played it so much. The Unholy War. Very good game. It had a great soundtrack. I think I talked more about this in one of my pickups videos. I think the one I did for Halloween back in October. Oh, this game, Vandal Hearts. I beat this game so many times. I can't even remember how many times I beat it. I don't know if I'd call it well, maybe personally I would call it a masterpiece. The only thing is the graphics are kind of dated. Mainly, like, the blood is kind of pixelated. Some of the animation is a little lacking, but it's such a good game. You know, if you can find it for a decent price, or even if you just want to emulate it, it's definitely a must-play game. If I started playing this right now, I could probably beat it in a couple of days. Yeah. I fucking love that game. It has a great soundtrack too, and I think I hear a cat coming. Yeah. There was also a sequel, Vandal Hearts 2. This one was okay. It was good. There was also another one for Xbox Live Arcade. That one was okay too, I guess. Like, basically they kind of get, like, more and more meh after each title. But the first one, I think, has the best story and gameplay. Down to the last three here. We have Versus, which is like a early 3D beat 'em up, not a beat 'em up, a fighting game with it. You have these different factions. It's okay. Not the greatest fighting game in the world, but War Games, DEFCON 1, I think that says. Yeah. And last but not least, Wild 9, which is such an awesome game. Another one that I highly recommend playing, because it's like this was actually made by Interplay, who also did Loaded, and they also did the Earthworm Jim games. I'm pretty sure they also did the, what the hell is it called? The Clay Fighter games. They made a lot of great fighting games. I mean, a lot of great games that, like, very out of the ordinary, and yeah, it's like a space, yeah, you have all kinds of, again, I explained this in the same video that I did the Suikoden one, but it's such a great game. The music was awesome, probably because it was done by Tommy Tallarico. He made awesome music in video games. He also did the Earthworm Jim soundtracks. But, that's my PS1 collection, for all of you. Now, I'll probably do the other collections that I have I have the vast majority of is N64, GameCube, and Xbox 360. And NES. Some of the others aren't as wildly big as those ones, but I'll probably do more of those in the future. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Have a nice day.